So hi guys, hopefully everybody can hear us. The Council House bells of Nottingham's Council House are ringing now at 10 o'clock, so we'll make a start. First things first, I'd like to welcome Dan back, fresh from his honeymoon.
Hi there.
So this week we'll go without a hitch because Dan's here, as opposed to me running things on my own.
Yeah, I enjoyed some technical difficulties last week.
I'm not sure what went wrong. We got through it. And today we're going to talk about advisor directories. So if everyone could just give us a quick wave and make sure they can hear us, that would be fantastic. And we'll make a start. Now, first thing I want to look at is the poll. And what we can see here, has everyone voted in the poll? There's 3 of you not voted, so if you could just give a quick vote, that would be great if you've not voted already. But we've got a reasonably even split here. It's clear that 60% of people either are struggling to make directories work or really don't know what directories are, so hopefully the next hour will help you answer that question. And then 40% of people are getting a good return or great return from directories, but don't necessarily love them. So over the course of the next hour, we're going to be answering some questions that you've got about directories. I think it's going to be a pretty full hour, so we'll dive straight in. And as I say, if you've got questions, usual drill, ping them across to Dan. Dan will nudge me in the ribs, and I will answer those questions, or attempt to. So let me share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. And we will dive straight in. And we're going to cover a variety of different things today. We're just going to do the basics about advisor directories, just to bring everybody up to speed. I need to share my screen. Apologies, Dan's that's why we need Dan here to help with things like this. There we go. So hopefully everybody can see the screen now. Dan, can everyone see the screen?
Well, I can. So yeah, there we go.
Cool. Yeah. Apologies. So we're going to cover the basics to start with, which will bring everybody up to speed in terms of where we are with advisor directories. Then we're going to look at the pros and cons of each of the directories and talk about how we can build them into your marketing strategy. Then we're going to bust some myths and misconceptions. There's a lot of those around about directories, probably more so, to be fair, than anything else when it comes to advisor or planner marketing. And then we're going to finish with some top tips for improving your returns. Keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming, and let's get the debate flowing on this, because it is a hot topic, and as the poll showed, opinions about directories are divided. So the basics: advisor directories allow consumers to connect with financial advice, financial advisors, financial planners, in essentially 2 different ways. The first allows consumers to browse a list of advisors based on certain criteria they have input into the search facility on the directory, and then make contact with their chosen advisor. Other directories have a matching functionality where the consumers will answer a series of questions, and then the directory will match the consumer to the advisor. And there's 3 directories which really dominate the market. Unbiased is the first. That was launched way back when it was formed as IFA Promotions. If you can remember IFA Promotions, you was old as I am. But it started with IFA Promotions and it was a directory of financial advisors. It still is a directory of financial advisors. It has expanded to cover solicitors, accountants, and other professions. Vouched For then joined in maybe 5-6 years ago, and we'll talk about some of the differences there. And then Advisor Book is the newest entry into the market, and they launched just under 2 years ago. And those 3 really dominate the market. New entrants tend to struggle because you've got to build up bulk. You've got to build a bulk of advisors on there, and then you've got to build a bulk of or a mass of consumers who are aware of the directory and then use it to find a financial advisor or planner. and that's really quite difficult. Unbiased had first mover advantage, and are mentioned in wake up packs and in lots of places, as we'll see in a minute. Voucher4 will VC backed, so they've got reasonable pockets. And AdvisorBook took a slightly different stance by buying the FCA register and building their database from there. But new entrants tend to struggle. The way they try and get around that is to simply try and match a consumer with an advisor, which, to be cynical, is simply an attempt to get the consumer's details and then try and flog it onto an advisor. So we wouldn't recommend right now going past these three directories: Unbiased, Voucher, and AdvisorBook. Wouldn't do more than those. Dan, anything coming in?
Yes, we've had 2 comments so far. So Noel Watson wants to know, it would be great to know if anyone has had any inquiries via AdvisorBook. So if anybody can drop a few comments there just to give us a gauge of whether it's working. And an anonymous user who hasn't filled in their name, very mysterious, has asked what our thoughts are on the PFS Your Money profile.
Right, okay. I wonder if the anonymous user is from Unbiased, Voucher, or AdvisorBook. Right, so no, it's a good point, and I would be really interested to know if anybody has had much traction from AdvisorBook. I would suggest that there probably isn't much, but I'd cut them a bit of slack, simply because they're doing a good thing by trying to disrupt the market a little bit. And it's free to be on there right now, so there's no cost for any inquiries and no cost to be on there. And Ray has talked to me about, Ray Adams, who runs Niche IFA, CashCalc and AdvisorBook, and is a hugely smart guy. He's talked to me about the fact that they're going to be doing more marketing later on in the year. So I'd cut AdvisorBook a bit of slack, but it will be interesting to find out whether people are getting many inquiries from it or not. And then the other query was about the PFS.
Yes, and that was, so the mystery's been solved. It's actually our regular Wasim.
Hi, Wasim, how you doing?
It's the PFS Your Money profile.
Okay. Yeah, I would be inclined to be on there. It's not a paid for directory, so maybe to clarify my comments, if we're talking about paid for directories, I would limit it to Unbiased, Voucher, and AdvisorBook. However, I would make sure that my profile was fully completed on the CISI website if I was accredited, on the CII chartered directory if I was a chartered firm, and anything else such as the one that Wasim's talked about there. Anything else that's come in done while we've been talking?
Just one comment from Scott that says, signed up to AdvisorBook, but can't recall any inquiries via this.
Thanks, Scott. So, continuing with the basics, Unbiased, and just trying to draw some differences between the three. Unbiased is a directory of business-based profiles. So your firm will have its own profile on there. I have seen situations where a firm has multiple profiles in different postcodes, and that's potentially because they've got different offices. So the firm's London office and Watford office will have 2 different locations, and therefore might have 2 different profiles, and therefore can cover a wider geographical area. I've also seen situations where firms have got one profile at their main office, and then they've taken additional profiles at their advisors' home addresses to cover more geographical areas, so more geographical space. And I've seen that work really well, and it's logical. If Unbiased is producing an acceptable return on investment, why wouldn't you want to multiply that by having profiles in different areas? But they're business-based profiles, as opposed to Voucher4, which is an advisor-based profile. I'll come back to that in a minute. And as I said there, we've got growing numbers of firms taking multiple profiles. Now, consumers, when they go on to Unbiased and go on and have a play at unbiased.co.uk, consumers can choose whether to be matched to an advisor or search the directory. If it's matched, the algorithm will match the consumer to the number of appropriate advisors. It pings out the inquiry to, I've been told, between 3 and 7 advisors. Unbiased are a bit cagey on that, but that's what I've been told. And the first one to accept it gets the inquiry and locks the other ones out. By far the best inquiries from Unbiased are those who have searched the directory and then got in touch with you, either directly through the Unbiased system, or they've gone onto your website and made contact that way. And the reason being, if they're matched, they actually don't have a clue who they've been matched to. They're not told who they've been matched to. They're just told someone will be in touch, which is a little vague. If they've searched the directory, they've done a bit more work, so potentially they're a bit more engaged, but they've actually chosen to contact you and your firm rather than somebody else. So they made a positive decision that you might be the advisor or planner who can solve their financial problems or help them achieve their aspirations. So inquiries that come to you rather than direct to you, rather than matched, I think are probably better from Unbiased. Anything else coming down?
Yeah, so we've got a comment from Kerry. You know how the timings work with Unbiased. We paid for an inquiry and called the client, who said they have already sorted it. We did get a refund, but as a token, so we have to spend it in order to get our money back.
Okay, so two issues there. Yes, you're right, Kerry. Unbiased, you pay them in the Queen shilling, they pay you back in Unbiased dollars if it doesn't work, which does annoy advisors. I think the token's got 12 months on it, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So you will spend it, I'm sure, but yeah, I take your point. It is quite annoying that they do refunds in that way. In terms of that one inquiry that he's already sorted it, assuming you were reasonably swift, I don't know how he's already sorted it in that time. Maybe he wasn't that serious in the first place. Maybe he pinged out a couple of requests on Unbiased and someone just beat you, picked you to the post. So I'm not quite sure why in that case. But it does bring up a wider point, Kerry, that we need to look at the return on investment from directories over the course of probably a year, to be fair, at least. If you were building new directories now, a year is probably a fair time to give them. There will be some at one end, like you just said, terrible leads that don't go anywhere and you may or may not get a refund for. There'll be others that are absolute gold and become fantastic clients. And what we need to give it is a long enough period to get a big enough data set to make good evidence-based decisions. Anything else before I carry on?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
So vouched for, as we said before, are the two key differences between Unbiased and vouched for is that vouched for are advisor-based profiles. And that means that it's an individual advisor who is on there. And then the second difference is that not only is it a directory, so people can go on and search for an advisor, the advisors are rated and reviewed by consumers. And those consumers fall into two groups. The first group is the consumer who has used the advisor and is a client or has been a client. And the second, and this is really important, are consumers who can leave what's called a first impression. Now, the first impressions are left by consumers who maybe aren't a client yet, maybe never became a client. And sometimes these first impressions are not great and can drag people's score down. So I was looking at an advisor profile yesterday and they got an average score of 3.3 out of 5 across about 20 reviews. That's really, really low for vouched for. And the issue was that consumers were leaving inquiries. The advisor was clearly paying for them, but wasn't getting in touch. And then they got a series of 1-star reviews. So just be aware of that it isn't only clients who can review you, it's people who have submitted an inquiry can leave what's called a first impression. And if the first impression isn't great, they can drag your score down, as was the case with this particular advisor. But the other thing you get as an advisor with vouched for is a series of reputational tools. And if you look at some of the websites we design, you will see that there is the vouched for widget, which embeds the rating in an advisor's website. There's various certificates and guides. A couple of months ago, they did the guide to the top advisors in the Times, all sorts of stuff like that. So what vouched for are trying to do is show the quality of outcomes, which I think is really quite useful. The vetting procedure they go through to ensure that reviews are genuine is robust. Big fan of what vouched for are doing that. And then Advisor Book, it's firm-based profiles, so very similar to Unbiased, but it's a directory only. Consumers must search for an advisor. There's no ability to be matched. And from as I understand it, Ray's using that as a point of difference between him, or between Advisor Book and Unbiased. It shows all advisors on the FCA register, but if you want your profile to be beefed up and show more details about you, you need to go in and claim your profile, which is, as I say at the moment, currently free. So those are the differences between Unbiased, Vouched For and Advisor Book. Any questions on those before we move on?
Okay, not a question as such. Note from Kerry, who actually admits that they're not asking, just thinking aloud. So, we've asked for reduced rate as we have 2 profiles and pay over £70 a month, and then the lead on top. They said they can offer a 5% reduction as we have 2 profiles, but we've always had 2 profiles. Why was that not offered initially?
I don't know, Kerry. 5% on 70 quid. By my maths, isn't a lot of money. You might get a pint out of that a month. £3.50. I think, yeah, by all means, go for, see if you can get a bit of money off. But I would be really focusing on your return on investment. From memory, the most expensive profile with Unbiased is £59 a month plus VAT, so let's call that £70. That includes your first inquiry. And then each subsequent inquiries are £30 plus VAT, so 36 quid in effect, because most advisors aren't VAT registered. If you convert, say, 1 in 3, 1 in 4, that means that your cost of acquisition of a client is somewhere between £90 and £120, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a touch more. That's actually a pretty low cost of acquisition. So I would be focusing on, yeah, by all means try and get a bit of money off. But I really will be focusing on the fact that these directories are actually a pretty low cost way of attracting new clients. Okay, so do you want to talk briefly about the power of directories? We all know, and we'll talk about this a bit more later, the best type of new inquiry is a referral or recommendation. They're already pre-sold on you, they've probably got an immediate need, and they've heard good things from the person who's referred them on. So no debate that a referral or recommendation from an existing client or professional connection is by far the best type of new inquiry. However, directories can provide the icing or the cherry on the cake, depending on how you look at it. And they're hugely powerful things, especially Unbiased and Vouched For. They're referenced in the personal finance media on a regular basis. At the bottom of articles, you will often see to find a financial advisor, go to Unbiased or Vouched For. They are, some of them, certainly Unbiased, are referenced in provider communications and wake-up packs. Celeste, who's one of our copywriters here, she talked about, she got a communication from Aviva recently about her pension. And in there was a line basically saying, if you need professional advice, go to Unbiased. So there are, it has, certainly Unbiased and Vouched For have a reasonable profile amongst people who are interested in personal finance. They're both well ranked on online search as well. If you type in financial advisor followed by wherever you are, Nottingham, Derby, Leicester, etc., you will see that in the natural search results, both Unbiased and Vouched For generally rank quite well, and you'll see they spend money on advertising in the Google ads as well. And they're becoming more innovative. Great example of that is, I suppose, Advisor Book's launch, but also Vouched For's the Times top, however many it was, top financial advisors, based on rankings from clients. That was really innovative and pleased a lot of advisors, and has led to new business, I know. And it was great to see. It was great to see 3 or 4 yardstick clients on the front of the publication. But the directories are quite powerful. And if you did, I've previously done a comparison between the number of Google searches going through in an area, Nottingham, for example, for financial advice, and compare that to the number of searches going through Unbiased and Vouched For. Unbiased and Vouched For are getting more search traffic for local advisors than Google is. So it's so important to make sure that your profiles are as good as possible, and embrace directories. They're not perfect, but embrace them because they are powerful. Dan, how are we doing for time?
So we're just reaching the 20-minute past clock.
So I thought we'd look at the pros and cons of each directory. And this is where it'd be interesting to see whether you guys out there agree with any of this or have pros and cons that you would like me to add to this list. In terms of the pros for Unbiased, it's got the highest search volume of all three. So more people will use that to search for a financial advisor or planner than Unbiased or vouched for. Sorry, than Advisor Book or vouched for. The return on investment that we see from clients is excellent. Typically, we see a 10 times return, taking amount paid out, comparing it to annual fees. And it's sorry, the initial fee, excluding annual fees. So the amount paid out compared to the initial fee charge, we see a return on investment of about 10 times. And use that as a benchmark now. And clearly, on top of that, you've got the ongoing advisor fees that an advisor or planner would receive for servicing that client for years to come. But what I would say, to go back to, I think it was Kerry's comment earlier, we really need to look at the return on investment over a prolonged period, at least a year, and make sure that you monitor the source of inquiries. Even if it comes through via your website or they pick up the phone to the office, asking them how did they find out. We've got one client in Bristol who regularly gets people ringing their office or completing online inquiry forms when the original source was unbiased. It's also easy to set up and maintain. You can be on Unbiased in the afternoon if you want. It's very easy for you to be on there, to build your profile, and to be ranking. The barriers to entry are really quite low. Cons, I personally would say that the match stroke concierge inquiries are often difficult to win. And I'm basing that on feedback that I get from advisors. I would rather it was just a directory, but Unbiased or wedded to the matched concierge inquiries. Keep trying to win them, but see those, back to cherries and icing, see those as the icing on the cake, and focus on getting as many of the directory inquiries as possible, because you won't feel quite so frustrated. And also the directory inquiries, the ones who have looked on the directory and decided they want to get in touch with you, are going to be better quality because they've made the decision that you might be the advisor or planner for them. And getting back to what somebody else said earlier, refunds are paid in credits and not cash. And I know that's a source of frustration for advisors. So those are my pros and cons for Unbiased. Has anybody got anything else they want to add in?
Yes, so we've got a con from Ian Watson. So, hi guys, one other negative point regarding Unbiased is if you decline an inquiry, it has a negative effect on your rating. This can be raised again. However, I have seen this happen firsthand on more than one occasion.
Hi Ian, how you doing? Right, we're a bit ahead of ourselves, but this is a myth I'm going to bust right away. So the response rating is a rating that appears on your Unbiased profile and rates you out of 10 for the response. Now, it's the speed with which you accept or decline an inquiry. It isn't the speed with which you get in touch with the inquiry. It isn't the speed with which you go and meet the inquiry or deliver the advice, etc. It's how quickly you respond to the email coming in. And the rating is out of 10. The lowest you can go to, though, is 7 out of 10 at the moment. So it's actually rating out of 3, but that's probably beside the point. Every time you accept an inquiry, go back a step, to positively improve your response rating, you need to give Unbiased a firm decision about an inquiry within 24 hours. Now, that firm decision can be a yes, I want to accept it, or no, I want to decline it. But either way, that's a firm decision. Now, clearly, the 24 hours, you would be responding to inquiries more quickly than 24 hours, and you would need to do that to win the matched inquiries anyway. But it's based on giving Unbiased a firm decision. If you give them a firm decision within 24 hours, your response rating will improve. But you get more credit for accepting an inquiry than you do declining an inquiry. So if you decline an inquiry, your response rating doesn't go down and won't go below 7. It just won't have such a positive impact as if you accept the inquiry. Lastly on that, and I hope that's clear, I'm quite happy to repeat it if it's not, because it is complicated, unnecessarily so. But the other thing to make clear is if you don't give a firm decision about an inquiry within 24 hours, then it will expire, and your response rating from wherever you were, 9.5 out of 10, will go straight down to 7, and you'll stay on 7 for 30 days, I think. So it's a bit like a nasty game of snakes and ladders, really. But you simply get more credit for accepting an inquiry than you do for declining an inquiry, but you still get credit for declining an inquiry. I hope that's a bit clearer because it is complicated. Any other questions before we move on to?
So we've got an observation from Noel. In my experience, 90% of my unbiased inquiries are concierge. Maybe need to improve my profile to get more direct inquiries.
That's a really good point, Noel. And I guess there's a couple of things here. I would love to find out what the split is between concierge and directory inquiries. I suspect that you're 90%. I suspect there's more concierge inquiries than directory inquiries, but there's no way of knowing because Unbiased doesn't label them up. So you can't go and look retrospectively. Next thing I'd say is yes, absolutely work your profile hard. Optimize it. We've got checklists on our website, all sorts of things which we'll come to. But the more you can do to hoover up direct inquiries, the better, and the less frustrated you will be with the concierge inquiries, and you can try and move that dial from 90%, 10% to maybe more 50-50, but I don't know what's achievable because I have no benchmark for the percentage of concierge inquiries and the percentage of directory inquiries.
Okay, so just going back to Ian's quandary, I've always maintained a 10 out of 10 rating. I declined a lead recently within 10 minutes of receipt and saw my rating reduce.
Yeah, that's because you don't get as much credit for declining an inquiry. So 10 out of 10 probably means you've accepted everything, Ian. And when you declined one, yeah, you do go back slightly. I wouldn't worry about being 9.2, 9.5 out of 10. But it does demonstrate that the response rating is, it's a shame it's there. I really don't understand it. It's a blunt tool. It doesn't actually measure what's important to consumers.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have many fans, does it?
No, none whatsoever. But I have seen a bit of evidence. I can see why they introduced it. And I can see a bit of evidence that it's solving that problem, but not a lot. Anything else before we go on to Vouched For?
That's everything for now.
Cool. So Vouched For, pros. It's not just a directory. It has the ratings and reviews from clients and people who have made a first impression, or you made a first impression on, good, bad, or indifferent. And therefore you can use those reputational tools. We recommend, I would use it just for reputational tools alone. And hopefully it produces some clients for the advisors we recommend it to as well. But it is those reputational tools are very, very useful throughout the rest of your marketing. They take an innovative approach to promoting financial advice. The Times piece that they did, the pull-out they did in February, being a really, really good example of that. And I know they've got some other stuff coming out, which I hope to find out about next week because I've got a meeting with them. And then, as I said before, the suite of tools they have when you log in is very nice and makes it easier to promote yourself and to build your social proof online. Cons, generally lower level of inquiries from Unbiased. Again, I say that based on feedback from advisors. I'd be interested to know, people on this call, do you get less from Vouched For than you do from Unbiased? Is there any material difference in quality? That'd be really interesting to find out. It's potentially slightly more expensive per inquiry. Most of the clients we work with go on the £45 a month subscription that gets you up to 3 inquiries. So it's potentially a touch more expensive, but not significantly so. But it takes time to build up the number of reviews needed to rank well. So with Unbiased, you can be on there this afternoon. The profile can be will appear for geographical searches because it's based on the proximity to the postcode that someone's in when they search. Whereas Unbiased takes several factors into account to decide where you will rank. And that includes number of reviews, quality of reviews, and recency of reviews. So you can't just go on there this afternoon and expect to be ranked. You need to build up a number of reviews, 12, 15. Remember, husband and wife can each leave a review. So that helps you move a bit quicker. And clients can also leave reviews after your annual face-to-face review or full planning meeting or whatever you call it. So there's opportunity. It doesn't have to just be new clients who leave reviews. And in fact, if you get existing clients to consistently leave reviews for you, that really shows the quality of your ongoing service and the value you're delivering. But it does take time to build up the number of reviews needed to rank well. So what we tend to recommend is that people build their profile, but simply have a free profile to start with until they've got to the point of 12, 15 reviews, and then turn it on. Then start paying. And that way, you're not paying while you're building up reviews and while you're not going to necessarily be ranked as well. But it is worth the effort. It really is worth the effort, in my opinion, on VouchedFor. Any questions to do with VouchedFor?
No.
No comments on VouchedFor. Interesting. Advisor book. So it's a directory only. I would give it challenger status. I think that is a definite pro for it. It looks like a cross between Facebook and Unbiased, to be honest, at the front end and when you log in as well. But it is nice. The other thing I would say about a pro with Advisor book, they go to great pains to ensure that the information on there is accurate. So when you're signing up, if you say you're independent, you need to send in your terms of business to prove that. If you say you're chartered, they will physically do a search on the chartered database. And we did some research comparing the number of advice firms saying they were chartered to actually being chartered. And we only found one anomaly on Advisor book. We found significantly more on Unbiased. Currently, there's no cost to appear on the directory or receive inquiries. That is obviously balanced off by the fact that inquiry levels from Advisor book will be significantly lower from the other two because of a couple of the cons that we've said there: low profile and current lack of search volumes. But I would support it. I'm a big fan of what they're trying to build there. So if we don't have any more questions there, we'll go on to how directories and embed them in your marketing strategy. So our view, as we have made clear through all these conversations, all these meetings, and we started off talking about strategy, is that your marketing, you have to take a strategic approach towards your marketing. Too often people come to us and say, I want to do, I should be on. And it's not particularly joined up, which means that they'll try a lot of different things. Some will work, some won't. They'll get impatient and want to try more stuff. Shiny new syndrome symptom kicks in, etc., etc. So start with strategy. But if you're, without wanting to get ahead of ourselves, if your requirement is to build clients, to generate new inquiries, then obviously you need a strategy to do that. But directories have a part to play, generally speaking, in that strategy. It's very rare that we will say to somebody that directories shouldn't have a part to play, but see them as a support to other tactics. And this comes back to the conversation we were talking about with referrals and recommendations earlier. We all know referrals and recommendations are the best type of new inquiry. And that's where generally we recommend that a firm's focus is doing more to generate more referrals and recommendations, but directories supplement that. Have we seen a question come in?
So we've got a few notes here. So we've just going back to unchartered firms in chartered firms clothing. Scott mentions the Unbiased firm Chartered Financial Planners accreditation search still includes non-chartered firms, some with no chartered financial planners at all, over 2 years after they and the CII were informed of the issue.
Who said that, sorry?
That was Scott.
Scott, you're absolutely right. There was a piece in New Model Advisor in maybe September, October last year, talking about this, and it was actually based on our research, which I passed to New Model Advisor. They validated it, and then they published it. And there are firms on. If you click the box, I want a chartered firm, and it is very clear whether it's a chartered firm or chartered advisor. But if you click the box, there are firms passing themselves off as chartered firms, but don't appear on the chartered directory, and it's hugely frustrating. There could be a number of reasons for it. The firm might have been chartered, lost their charter status, and they've forgotten to update unbiased. It could be that they thought, well, our directors, all our advisors are chartered, so that's the same thing. Let's just say we're chartered. We know it's not the same thing. And then it could be firms who absolutely are just trying to pass themselves off as a wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't know what the answer is to the reasons why. I do wish Unbiased would do more about it, to be honest. We've alerted it to them, and you can see where we are.
Okay, one more question from Wazim. Would you recommend being visible across all 3 directories?
Generally speaking, yes. It comes back to taking a strategic approach, Wazim, but generally, yes. If you, I don't know what your target market is, but let's just assume your target market isn't hugely niche. Dentists in Bradford, doctors in London, wherever. Let's just assume it's not too niche. Then, yeah, directories have a massive part to play as a wider strategy. I would go on Unbiased immediately. I would go on AdvisorBook immediately, and I would build my profile on Vouched For, but taking a free subscription. Ask clients to rate and review me. When I get to 12-15, then I would start paying them money, and then I would make a real concerted effort to ensure that I'm monitoring the return on investment I'm getting from each over the course of a year. But, and this takes us back to the presentation, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So don't rely on Unbiased, Vouched For, AdvisorBook to feed you all the inquiries that you need. A, you'll probably not hit your target. You need other things as well. And B, it's always dangerous. If I saw historically some advisors who were doing this with Unbiased were getting significant numbers of inquiries through when it was a directory only, and they dropped significantly when they introduced the matching concierge service. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. See them as playing a supporting role to your other marketing, and be pragmatic as well. Take the rough with the smooth. You will get some rubbish on there, but you'll get that from any form of marketing. Poor inquiries will sneak through, but don't let the rubbish give you a negative view of directories any more than a really, really good inquiry gives you an overly positive view of directories. Try and stay pretty neutral, and look at the return on investment over the course of the year. Dan, I think some other things to enter?
Just to Wazim saying thanks for the tip.
Cool. How are we doing for time now?
20 minutes left.
Fantastic. So let's deal with some myths and misconceptions. Now, to be fair, we tend to see more myths and misconceptions about Unbiased than we do Vouched For, and more about Vouched For than we do AdvisorBook. So the first one, and this I often see this perpetuated on Twitter by certain people. Directories are rubbish, they don't work. Well, they do. And when you push people who say that and ask them, well, when was the last time you updated your profile? When was the time you did any work on your profile? They tend to go a bit quiet. So like any marketing, you get out of it. What you get out of it is proportional to the effort you put into it. And directories do work. There are occasions when they work less well. So for example, being very niche, working with only certain sectors in certain geographical areas. They work less well in very rural areas because there are fewer people than larger conurbations. But as a throwaway comment, directories are rubbish, they don't work. They absolutely do, and I'm happy to try and prove it to anybody who says otherwise. Leads go to the highest bidder. Someone mentioned that on Twitter last week. That's absolutely not the case. Inquiries across all 3, actually AdvisorBook's out because they don't charge, but inquiries across Unbiased and Vouched For, there is no way of paying more and getting more inquiries. The inquiries are the same cost. You need to move quickly to get them in terms of Unbiased and the matched inquiries, but they don't go to the highest bidder. It's absolutely rubbish. The reviews are fake. I suppose this relates to Vouched For. I don't believe that they are. I know we were in conversation with one particular consumer publication a few months ago who was keen to understand why so many reviews and ratings for advisors were positive. They didn't think that was possible. And over time, they became convinced that actually the service advisor planners give is on the whole very, very good, and clients are overwhelmingly happy. And that's actually backed up by some research that we've got. But when the consumer publication spoke to VouchedFor and spent some time understanding their VouchedFor's process for verifying reviews, they became really, really impressed with it. And VouchedFor has many different ways of ensuring that only genuine reviews are put on. There's a flip side to that as well, in that VouchedFor won't remove reviews which are negative, genuinely negative. And why should they? It needs to be a true reflection of the experience of the consumer. It doesn't work for me. Well, this comes back to being rubbish. There are very, very occasional situations when directories might not work. But on the whole, directories do work. But the returns you get are proportional to a number of different things, including the effort you put in. I'm not getting any leads. Well, that again is a similar thing. What I would say is circle back, go and look at the profile again, start looking at the traffic that's going through. We can help with this. We can do work on this because we've got access to so many profiles. But you should be getting inquiries through. And then that leads to the last one. I often hear people say, well, I don't want to pay for leads, which is really interesting. And it's Unbiased changed their charging model a few years ago. And there may have some people on this call who are still on the old model, who just pay a monthly subscription and don't pay for the inquiries, or at least the direct inquiries. But Unbiased changed that charging structure. And I know a few people who object to paying for leads, but at the end of the day, it's just the cost of acquisition of a new client. If you don't pay for an inquiry from Unbiased or VouchedFor, you've got to spend money on marketing elsewhere. So for me, it's about the cost of the inquiry, irrespective of where it comes from, and monitoring that, as opposed to getting wound up about the fact that you've got to pay direct to Unbiased for a lead. Because at £36 plus VAT, if you convert 1 in 3, 1 in 4, that's actually a relatively low cost of acquisition for a new client. I don't have a problem with that at all. But any other myths and misconceptions that we've heard, I will be glad to hear if anyone's got any other views. But we regularly see these. We do our best to address them. And we encourage people to take a pragmatic approach, because directories can be hugely frustrating, especially if you get a duff lead, someone you can't get hold of, you go on a run of those, you struggle to win the concierge or matched inquiries. But over time, you should see a really good return on investment. But you will only see that return if you put some effort in. So let's finish today by looking at our 11 top tips for improving your returns. The first is to think strategically. Don't just dive into building your unbiased VouchedFor advisable profile. Start with a strategic mindset about what you want to achieve, how many new inquiries that is, results in, the type of people you want to work with, your target market, the things that set your business apart compared to others, and use that information to build your profile. So your profile should be explaining who you work with, the problems you solve, the ambitions you help people achieve, and what separates you from the competition. Because if someone's doing a directory search on any of them, you are there amongst the competition. There is no place where competition is stronger on the journey to you than on a directory search. So if you understand what sets you apart, and I'm not talking about the old lines of honesty, integrity, and trustworthiness, because if that's all you've got, then frankly, there's other things that we need to look at. But it's what sets you apart from other advisors and planners, why consumers use you, the outcomes that you achieve, the problems you help them solve, the aspirations you help them achieve, all that sort of good stuff. Really important to think strategically before you dive in and start building your profiles. Second one, pretty obvious, upgrade from a free membership. This clearly doesn't apply to AdvisorBook, but with VouchedFor and Unbiased, you will not appear in the search results if you've got a free membership. So upgrade. The one we would recommend for Unbiased, I forget what it's called, but it's the higher level, and I think it's £59 a month plus VAT. The one we tend to recommend for vouched for, I think, is £45 per month. As I said earlier, number 3, remember your target market. Don't start building your profiles until you understand who your target market is. Because people want to understand that you have the specialist knowledge to deal with them, that you're experienced in dealing with people like them. So talk about your target market. Now that might be in your 20-word statement on Unbiased. It might be something along the lines of chartered firm working with people close to, at, or past retirement. Giving independent advice, etc., etc. So there you've got, for example, a couple of things that may differentiate you, independent and chartered, and you've talked about your target market. In the 200-word profile on Unbiased, on the profile on Vouched For and Advisor Book, talk about the types of clients you work with. Be specific. Be specific about the niches you work in. If you don't work in a niche, then that's a different conversation. Stand out. You can spot the profiles that we create a mile off, because you will see that, run a search, go into Unbiased, run a search on your postcode and scroll down the firms that are there. The majority of them will just have their logo. Change it. Mix up your logo with pictures of people. Add the chartered logo in there as well. People buy people, they don't buy logos. So the sooner that you can introduce some personality into this, the better. So come up with an image, for example, for your Unbiased profile that has pictures of you, your team, your logo, and maybe if you can fit it in the chartered logo as well. Dan's a dab hand at doing it. You're great at doing it.
Yeah, we've done quite a few, haven't we?
We have.
And although the actual image that you can use is only very small, I mean, I think it's, 125 pixels wide?
Yeah,
it's amazing that the sort of impact that the chartered logo has at that size, so still put it in there, even if you think it won't make any difference.
Yeah. And if you need any help with that, Dan's your man. Take time to build a profile carefully. Again, when you do your search for your postcode, scroll down, you'll see profiles that aren't completed. You'll see pictures aren't there. You'll see 20-word statements that have got 10 words in there or aren't completed. You'll see profiles that don't have testimonials, don't have links to the website, etc., etc. Take time to really craft a compelling profile. If you don't have the time or desire, then outsource it. We build these profiles on a fixed fee of £250 per profile. And we know that profiles we build have better click-through rates, etc., than others that we compare to. And look at what the competitors are doing. As I've said, do a search and see what else they're doing. And most of them are really poor. People tend to build them and then forget about them. So have a look at what competitors are doing by doing that search and reacting from there. As we talked about before, differentiate yourself. Explain the reasons people choose you. This is a reasonably competitive environment. So if you're chartered, talk about that. If you're accredited, talk about that. If you have done a lot of work in the community, talk about that, etc., etc. But find ways to differentiate yourself. And then add testimonials and reviews. Clearly on Vouched For, that's part of the whole point of being on there. You can add reviews really quite easily. You can send out a mailer via the Vouched For system to your clients to get reviews to start with. And then build into your processes after each periodic review or when you've taken on a new client. Talk to your client at that meeting about, would you be happy to leave a review? If they say yes, then send them an email after that meeting, or get someone in your team to send them an email so it's part of a process, reminding them. Make their life easy, remind them, and don't rely on them saying yes verbally and then actually going and doing it, because life gets in the way and the chances are they'll forget. So sending them an email reminder is really, really helpful. But build the request for Vouched For reviews into your process once you've got sufficient numbers to start with. On Unbiased and Advisor Book, add testimonials. You can only add testimonials on the $59 a month subscription, not the lower subscription. But add them. There's no limit for testimonials you can add, and there's no limit to the length of the testimonials. So it's a great way of getting your key messages across. As we said before, talk about the types of people you work with. So for example, people close to, at, or past retirement. Business owners, people building wealth, first-time buyers, whatever it may be. But talk about the type of people you work with, but then talk about the problems that you help them solve and the ambitions you help them achieve. Because remember, we talked before about triggers, and clients will have or potential clients will have a trigger that means that they are motivated to seek professional advice. We don't wake up generally in the morning and think, I need a financial plan. We do wake up with a problem or an aspiration that we want to solve or want to achieve. And we've got to understand what those triggers are. I want to buy my first house. I need to move house to get the kids into a certain school. I've been paying into my pensions all this time. Isn't it time I can retire? There's all sorts of triggers. So we need to talk about those triggers everywhere in our marketing, but certainly in our directory profiles. Build processes to deal with inquiries. Now, this is really more important for unbiased and the matched inquiries. Advisors and planners are probably spending a fair proportion of their time in meetings when they won't have their emails on their phones pinging. So you may well lose out on inquiries because you can't react quickly enough. And I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people on the call. So build processes to ensure that what I would recommend is you deputise somebody to accept inquiries on your behalf. So set up a separate email address via Gmail where unbiased inquiries can go to. And make sure that email is monitored by multiple people if possible. So monitored by you and on your phone, maybe have a separate ringtone for that. Have someone in your office who is monitoring that email address and can react really quickly when a matched or concierge inquiry comes in and can look at it, can make a decision quickly whether to buy it or not, so there's some training around that needed, and then can act quickly. You're sat in your meeting for a couple of hours, you'll miss out on that inquiry. Get somebody else to do it, set up that separate dedicated email address on Gmail to do it, because unbiased tell me Gmail's a bit quicker than company service, I don't know. But build a process to deal with inquiries so that you win them. Don't just rely on you being able to get them. And then monitor results and take evidence-based decisions. So important. We rely so much on gut feel sometimes, or gut feel takes over. Poor inquiry comes in, directories are rubbish. Cracking inquiry comes in, directories are great. The reality is always somewhere in the middle. So monitor the results. If you're not on our CRM webinar next week, let me know and we'll book you on. But that helps in terms of monitoring results as well, using the proper CRM. And then take evidence-based decisions. Over the course of the year, you might think, well, actually, I am getting really, really good returns here. Let's take on a different unbiased area. Let's change the voucher for listing that I'm on, etc., etc. But take evidence-based decisions based on data over like I said, a year at least. And if you've built these profiles and you don't get much luck with them in the first month, don't turn them off, tweak them, change them, until you either get to the point after a year of, yeah, actually this isn't working, and it's only washed its face, or yeah, actually I was wrong. This is proving really good, and I'm getting a very acceptable return on investment, which we see most of our clients get. How can we help? There's a load of free resources on our website for you to use. We, as a company, we build and rebuild profiles on Vouched For, Unbiased and Advisor Book. Currently, we charge £250 per profile for Unbiased and Vouched For, and we do Advisor Book for free, simply because it's relatively straightforward when you've done the others, and we want to support Ray and what they're trying to do there. And that's plus VAT, I should say. So we can build them for you, and we know what we're doing when it comes to that. And of course, we develop marketing strategies for firms as well. But if nothing else, go and use the free resources which are on our website. And I think that probably takes us quite close to 11 o'clock.
It does, yeah, 7 minutes to spare. 7
minutes. But if anybody's got any questions, comments on directories, etc., would love to hear them right now. Most people have a lot of people have a relatively negative opinion about Unbiased. It's good to see on the poll earlier that there are people getting good results. Has anybody got anything to say? If not, we might sign off. Hopefully it's been helpful, guys.
Nothing coming through yet. Oh, no, just Wasim saying thanks. So
thanks, Wasim. Thanks for everybody for coming. Hope it's been helpful. Any questions you've got, give me or Dan a shout, and we'll be very happy to help. We'll send a recording around, and we look forward to seeing you next month as well.
See you soon.
Cheers, guys.